You don't need to raise your voice to be respected. But you do need to know when to stay silent. Some people walk all over your boundaries, not with shouting or insults, but with quiet disregard. The real question is, how do you respond without losing your power? When you stop explaining yourself, you don't become cold, you reclaim control. There's a fine line between being kind and being taken for granted. You don't have to argue, justify, or beg to be understood. There's a smarter way to stand your ground. The more you choose yourself, the more the world learns to treat you with respect. The goal isn't to change people, it's to become so grounded, so unshakable, that no one dares to disrespect you in the first place. If you've ever felt dismissed, overlooked, or constantly had to shrink yourself just to keep the peace, this video is for you. Not through arguments, not through anger, but through 6 brutally honest and effective Stoic strategies. You'll learn how to handle people who don't respect you with quiet power and unwavering self-respect. Over the next few minutes, you'll discover how to draw an unbreakable line, restore your inner confidence, and most importantly, reclaim your place in any room without saying a single unnecessary word. This isn't just about dealing with disrespect. This is about living like someone who finally knows exactly what they're worth. 1. Embrace the silent stare, the power of unshaken stillness. There's a moment when someone crosses the line. Maybe they make a snide remark, try to embarrass you in front of others, or just bulldoze through your words like your voice doesn't matter. And in that exact moment, most people react. They get flustered, snap back, or try to defend themselves. But what if I told you that one of the most powerful things you can do is absolutely nothing? That's right, no yelling, no explaining, no witty comeback, just a calm, steady, unbroken stare, a silent stare that says more than 1,000 words ever could. Because when someone disrespects you, they're expecting a performance. They want you to crack, to fumble, to show that they've rattled you. But when you give them nothing, just your quiet, steady gaze, you flip the entire dynamic without saying a word. There's something deeply unsettling about someone who doesn't react the way we expect them to. When you're being tested or provoked and you remain absolutely still, absolutely grounded, the one being disrespectful suddenly finds themselves exposed. The silent stare becomes a mirror. It reflects their behavior back to them in its rawest form. And for people used to dominating, that silence is deafening. I remember a moment like this in a professional meeting. A man, loud, overconfident, the kind of person who dominates every room, kept cutting me off, speaking over me like I wasn't even there. At first, I tried to meet him with reason. I spoke clearly, kept my tone respectful, but he didn't stop. And then, something shifted. I leaned back in my chair, folded my arms, and just looked at him. I didn't blink. I didn't flinch. 5 seconds of silence, nothing but direct eye contact. And suddenly, you could feel the air shift. He stumbled over his words, eyes darting around the room, no longer sure of his footing. And from that moment forward, he never interrupted me again. That stare didn't just stop his behavior in the moment. It redefined the tone of our entire interaction. And here's why. People who consistently disrespect others usually do it because they think they can get away with it. They rely on the fact that most of us are too polite, too uncomfortable, or too shaken to stand firm. But the silent stare? That's a boundary drawn in steel. It's quiet, it's controlled, and it's deeply powerful. Now, let's be clear. This isn't about being passive-aggressive or cold. It's not about intimidation for its own sake. It's about presence. The silent stare is a message. I see you. I see exactly what you're doing. But I'm not going to waste my energy proving myself to someone who doesn't deserve that access. It tells them that you're not here to play their game. And you're certainly not here to shrink yourself to fit into their narrative. There's a kind of spiritual clarity that comes with learning to stay still in moments of tension. You're not suppressing your anger or pretending nothing happened. You're making a conscious choice not to feed their fire. You're reclaiming your peace in a situation designed to take it from you. And that choice strengthens something inside you. It teaches you that your dignity doesn't depend on others behaving properly. It lives in how you respond when they don't. I used to be the type to nervously laugh when someone made a rude joke at my expense. To explain myself when someone doubted my decisions. Or to try and smooth things over when I was clearly being disrespected. But every time I did, I walked away feeling smaller. Like I'd given a piece of myself away just to keep things comfortable. Learning the power of the silent stare changed that. It taught me that calm is not weakness, it's discipline. And silence, when used with intention, is strength. In a world where everyone wants to talk over each other. Where noise equals dominance and reaction equals victory. Stillness becomes your superpower. When you simply meet someone's disrespect with a steady, grounded gaze, it forces them to sit in their own discomfort. They feel it, they hear it, not in your voice, but in your stillness. You're not begging for respect, you're commanding it, simply by refusing to lower yourself. And the impact doesn't stop there. When you start responding this way, you begin to carry yourself differently. Your posture shifts, your energy sharpens. You stop over-explaining. You stop chasing validation. You begin to walk into rooms not needing to prove anything. Because you've seen firsthand what it looks like to stand your ground without raising your voice. If someone tries to belittle you, test your patience, or push your buttons, just stop. Don't play along. Look at them. Let the silence do its work. Let your eyes say what your words don't need to. And then, move on, not in anger, not in fear, but in absolute control of your own presence. This is the essence of Stoic power. Not reacting to provoke others. Not speaking just to fill the space. But being so secure in who you are that your silence becomes louder than anything they could throw at you. Let your stare be the boundary. Let your stillness be your voice. Let them feel what it's like to face someone who's no longer afraid to be unmoved. Because when you embrace the silent stare, you're not just defending yourself. You're honoring yourself. 2. Embrace silence as your answer. When saying nothing says everything. There's a subtle art to saying nothing. Not out of fear. Not out of weakness, but from a place of strength so deep that words become unnecessary. In a world addicted to noise, where everyone rushes to clap back, defend, explain, or prove themselves, silence has become a rare kind of power. And when someone disrespects you, silence can be the sharpest, most unforgettable response of all. You see, people who throw insults, who speak in condescending tones or lace their comments with sarcasm, aren't usually looking for truth. They're looking for control. They want you to react, to justify yourself, to rise to their bait. It feeds their ego when you respond. It gives them attention, validation, energy. But when you meet their words with quiet, calm, unwavering quiet, you cut off their supply. You show them that your peace is non-negotiable. I remember a time when someone casually ridiculed my work in front of others. Not with open aggression, but with one of those sly, backhanded remarks meant to sound like humor. In the past, I might have tried to explain myself, maybe laugh along nervously just to keep things smooth. But that day, I simply stared at him, raised an eyebrow, and said absolutely nothing. I let the silence hang like fog in the room. It became heavy, uncomfortable, not for me, but for him. He shifted in his seat, looked away, and never pulled that move again. That's what silence does. It turns the mirror toward them. It forces the person who disrespected you to sit with their own words, to hear themselves echo in the emptiness. And make no mistake, that echo is loud, because they expect resistance, but instead they get stillness. They expect emotion, but receive restraint, and suddenly, they're not sure what to do with the power they thought they had. Silence isn't passive, it's not surrender. It's a choice, a decision to protect your energy, your dignity, and your peace. It's not about ignoring the problem. It's about refusing to let the problem steal your presence. And that takes real discipline. There's a reason ancient Stoics spoke about silence not as absence, but as mastery. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." That's exactly what silence is. It's your refusal to mirror the chaos. Your refusal to play the emotional tug of war. When someone crosses a line, your silence says, "That doesn't deserve space in my world." Most people aren't ready for that kind of answer. They're wired for conflict, for reaction, for energy exchange. When you deprive them of that, when you give them absolutely nothing, they begin to unravel. Not because of what you did, but because of what you didn't give them, your attention, your words, your emotion. You've just made it clear, you're not a playground for their drama. But silence isn't just for them, it's for you. When you hold back your response, you create space to breathe, to think, to feel. You're not just avoiding conflict, you're building inner strength. You're refusing to let someone else's dysfunction determine your emotional state. That's not weakness. That's self-respect in its purest form. Learning to respond with silence changed how I carried myself. I no longer felt obligated to explain every decision, defend every boundary, or justify every choice. I stopped entertaining disrespectful questions. I stopped engaging with people who didn't listen to understand, but only to challenge or undermine. I realized that every time I chose silence over reaction, I reclaimed a piece of myself that I had been giving away for free. And yes, it takes time. It takes courage. At first, you'll feel the urge to speak, to correct the narrative, to prove your worth. But when you sit through that discomfort, when you let the silence settle, you'll discover a different kind of freedom, a peace that comes not from winning the argument, but from never stepping into the arena at all. Let's be honest, some things don't deserve a reply. Not every insult warrants a defense. Not every jab needs a counterpunch. Sometimes the greatest strength is the refusal to participate. Silence draws a line. It sets a boundary without raising your voice. It says, "I know who I am. I won't dance to your chaos." And this applies not just in conflict, but in everyday interactions. When someone makes a passive-aggressive remark at work, silence. When someone pressures you to explain a decision that's yours alone, silence. When someone seeks to pull you into their drama, their games, their spirals, choose quiet. Not because you're weak, but because you've outgrown the need to respond to nonsense. There's a quiet revolution that happens inside you when you master the pause. You become calmer, sharper, more grounded. You start noticing things. Who really listens? Who respects your space? Who tests your patience? And you begin moving differently. With intention, with clarity, with a presence that speaks even when your mouth doesn't. Embracing silence as your answer doesn't mean you never speak up. It means you choose when to speak and when not to. It means you know your words have value, and you won't waste them on people who won't hear them anyway. If someone throws disrespect your way, don't rush to react. Let the silence hold its weight. Let it carry your message. And as they squirm, or fumble, or retreat, remain still. You've already said everything without saying a thing. Because sometimes, silence is louder than any shout. Sometimes, silence is where your strength begins. And sometimes, silence isn't empty. It's full of self-respect. 3. Stop explaining your choices. Own your life without justifying it. There's a subtle kind of pressure we rarely talk about, the pressure to explain ourselves. To justify our decisions, our boundaries, our lifestyle, our pace. It happens in everyday conversations. Masked as curiosity. Why did you do that? Why didn't you go? Why would you leave that job? But here's a hard truth. Not everyone asking you, why, wants to understand. Many just want to challenge you, poke holes, and make you doubt what you already know to be true. And that's why the greatest freedom begins when you stop explaining your choices. You don't owe anyone a narrative about how you live your life. Let that sink in. You're allowed to make decisions that others don't understand. You're allowed to follow your instincts. Protect your peace. Walk away. Say no. Switch directions. Take risks. Or slow down, without giving anyone a breakdown of your reasons. Because your choices are yours. That's it. That's the message. What most people call curiosity is often subtle judgment. They don't want to learn from you. They want you to conform. They want to measure your life by their own ruler. And when your decisions challenge their comfort zones or make them question their own stagnation, they ask, why? Not to listen, but to control, to bring you back to the mold they're comfortable with. And if you keep explaining yourself, you play right into it. I've lived that loop. I've been the person giving 10-minute explanations for why I walked away from a safe career. I've been the one trying to reassure everyone that I had a plan, that I wasn't being reckless, that it all made sense. But the more I explained, the more people questioned, the more I defended, the more they picked apart. Until one day, I realized, no explanation was ever going to be good enough for someone who didn't want to respect my choices in the first place. That's when everything changed. I decided to stop arguing for my freedom. I stopped translating my intuition into language for people who weren't listening anyway. The next time someone asked, "Why would you do that?" I looked them in the eye and said, "Because I wanted to," and let the silence speak. It was uncomfortable at first, but it was also powerful. Because with that one sentence, I reclaimed something I didn't even know I had lost, my autonomy. Confidence doesn't come from being agreed with. It doesn't come from applause or understanding or approval. Confidence comes from standing in your truth, fully, completely, whether or not anyone claps for it. The moment you stop trying to be understood by everyone, you start understanding yourself on a much deeper level. You stop asking, will they get it? And start asking, does this feel right for me? And that's the only validation that truly matters. When you keep explaining your choices, you subconsciously invite others to vote on your life. You open a door for their opinions, their judgments, their fears to cloud your path. You dilute your conviction by over-communicating your direction. But when you stop, when you simply say, "This is what I've chosen," and leave it at that, you close that door and reclaim your peace. You show them that your life is not a group discussion. Here's what's even more liberating. Most people stop questioning when they realize you won't entertain the game. When you don't offer them your energy. When you refuse to play the role of the people pleaser. They move on. They start to understand, consciously or not, that you're not seeking their permission. You've already decided. That kind of clarity is rare. And it commands respect. Let's get real. Explaining yourself constantly is exhausting. It's a slow erosion of self-trust. Every time you try to make others understand what only you were meant to feel, you lose a little more of your voice. And over time, you begin to question whether your path was valid to begin with. That's the danger. That's what we're breaking away from. This is your life, your timeline, your vision. It's not meant to make sense to everyone. Some people will never understand why you left that job, that relationship, that city. Some will never get why you chose peace over pressure, or growth over familiarity. And that's okay. They're not supposed to. Because they're not living your life, you are. Give yourself permission to walk boldly, even when it's misunderstood. Trust your decisions even when no one claps. You are not required to shrink your journey to fit into someone else's understanding. The people who matter won't need explanations. They'll support you simply because it's you making the decision. The rest? Let them wonder. From now on, when someone questions your choice, pause, smile, breathe, and say, "Because it felt right." That's it. No essays, no PowerPoint, no apologies, just clarity, just strength, just ownership. You don't have to explain your fire to people who fear the flame. Live your life, make your choices, walk your path, with no need for permission, and absolutely no need for explanation. Because the most powerful thing you can say sometimes is nothing at all. 4. Keep your distance, protecting your peace from those who drain it. Let's get one thing straight. Not everyone deserves a front row seat in your life. Some people show up just to test your patience, cross your boundaries, and chip away at your confidence piece by piece. And the most powerful move you can make isn't a confrontation, a dramatic speech, or a big emotional moment. It's distance, quiet, intentional, unapologetic distance. Keeping your distance doesn't mean you hate them. It doesn't mean you're holding a grudge. It means you've decided to stop handing your time, your energy, and your peace to people who continually prove they don't know how to handle it. That is not cruelty. That is clarity. There is a huge difference between being kind and being available for disrespect. You can be a good person with a good heart and still refuse to let certain people close. Some people are emotional thieves. They don't steal your wallet. They steal your calm. Every interaction feels like walking on eggshells. Every conversation leaves you second-guessing yourself. Every message from them makes your chest tighten a little. And yet, we keep them around, out of guilt, out of habit, or out of fear of what they'll think if we pull away. But here's the truth. Proximity is a privilege. And not everyone has earned it. You are allowed to create space between yourself and anyone who makes you feel less. You are allowed to stop returning the calls, to skip the invitations, to stop pretending everything's fine when it's not. That's not betrayal. That's self-respect. And sometimes, distance is the clearest boundary you can set. When words don't work, when they twist your concerns into drama or make you feel like you're overreacting, distance speaks for you. There was someone in my life who always found a way to make me feel small. The insults were subtle, coated in sarcasm. The support was selective, given only when it served them. I kept justifying it, brushing it off, thinking I was being too sensitive. But over time, I noticed something. I felt drained after every interaction. I started dreading their presence. My self-esteem dipped just from being around them. Until I made a quiet decision, no more. I didn't announce it. I didn't make a scene. I simply stepped back. Less contact, fewer replies, more silence. And suddenly, I could breathe again. That's the power of distance. It gives you space to see clearly. When you're no longer tangled in their words or weighed down by their energy, you start to realize just how heavy their presence really was. And with that space comes freedom. The freedom to rebuild your boundaries. The freedom to reconnect with your values. The freedom to surround yourself with people who lift you instead of deplete you. Yes, some people will call you selfish for doing this. They'll say you've changed, that you're cold or distant. But here's what they're really saying: I can no longer access you the way I used to. That's not your problem. That's the cost of disrespect. When someone shows consistent disregard for your peace, they lose the right to stand close to it. You are not required to carry everyone. You are not obligated to keep anyone in your life who actively works against your well-being. Stoic wisdom reminds us to guard our inner citadel, to protect our inner world from the noise and chaos outside. And keeping your distance is part of that protection. You are not being cruel by removing yourself from situations or relationships that make you feel unworthy. You are being conscious. You are being intentional. And above all, you are honoring the fact that your energy is sacred. Not everyone is meant to walk every chapter with you. Some people were only ever supposed to be a page. And the longer you hold onto what drains you, the more you delay what could grow you. Distance clears the space for better connections, for deeper peace, for stronger alignment with who you truly are. It took me years to learn that I didn't have to explain my decision to step back. I didn't owe anyone an essay about why their presence no longer felt right. The moment I stopped giving long explanations and simply started prioritizing my peace, my entire emotional world shifted. I was lighter, more focused, more present, not because I fixed everything around me, but because I chose what I allowed near me. Keep your distance from anyone who jokes at your expense, who competes with your happiness, who makes you feel guilty for setting boundaries. Keep your distance from those who only show up when they need something, or those who diminish your dreams because they're afraid to chase their own. You do not need 100 people around you. You need a few who see you, respect you, and add to your life instead of taking from it. This isn't about living in isolation. It's about choosing your circle with wisdom. Energy is contagious, and when you constantly surround yourself with draining people, you begin to believe that exhaustion is normal. But it's not. Peace is possible. Balance is possible. And it begins with who you allow into your space. Let today be the day you stop giving unlimited access to those who bring limited respect. Let today be the moment you redefine closeness, not by history, not by obligation, but by energy, integrity, and alignment. Keep your distance when it protects your peace. And never, ever apologize for it. 5. Hold your head high. Walk with the weight of your worth. When someone disrespects you, they're often banking on a silent reaction, the kind that makes you shrink. Drop your shoulders, lower your gaze, and slowly disappear into yourself. They want you small, submissive, second-guessing, because their power comes from seeing you unsure. But here's what they don't expect, what they can't handle when you stand tall. Shoulders back, eyes steady, and walk through it like your value has never been up for debate. That's the move that breaks their illusion. That's the moment their power starts to crumble. Holding your head high isn't just about physical posture. It's about energetic presence. It's how you enter a room. It's how you respond to passive-aggressive comments without blinking. It's how you carry yourself when someone tries to chip away at your identity. When you keep your chin lifted and your gaze firm, you're not just walking, you're declaring. You're saying, I know who I am. I know what I'm worth. And nothing you say or do is going to change that. There was a time in my life when I let small comments chip away at me. Little jokes masked as humor. Subtle digs in casual conversations. Expressions of fake concern that were actually laced with judgment. I didn't speak up, not because I agreed with them, but because I felt like maybe they were right. Maybe I wasn't enough. Maybe I had something to prove. But all that did was feed their need to keep me in that space, unsure. Dependent, malleable. One day, I had enough. I walked into a room where I knew I'd be the subject of whispers and eyes that judged. And instead of shrinking, I took up space. I stood tall. I smiled, not to please, but because I felt free. I looked every person in the eye. Not with arrogance, but with absolute calm certainty. And for the first time, I realized the people who tried to keep me small weren't powerful. They were afraid of someone who doesn't need approval to exist loudly. That's the secret. When you walk confidently, unapologetically, you disrupt their script. They want you to respond, to react, to apologize for your strength. But when you keep your head high, you remind them they don't hold the pen in your story. You do, and you've outgrown the narrative where your worth is up for debate. Confidence can be quiet. It doesn't have to be loud or flashy. It just has to be unshakable. And that unshakable presence begins the moment you stop carrying shame on your shoulders. When you stop adjusting your posture for the comfort of people who would rather see you dim than shine. The world is filled with critics, but very few of them will stand beside you when it matters. That's why your opinion of yourself has to matter more than theirs ever could. Holding your head high also teaches others how to treat you. People mirror what you project. If you carry yourself like you're not worth much, they'll believe you. But if you move like you know exactly what you bring to the table, without needing to prove it, they'll have to respect it. Even if they don't like it. Respect isn't something you beg for. It's something you embody. And when you embody it, something incredible happens. You stop chasing validation. You stop people-pleasing. You stop watering yourself down to fit into spaces that were never meant to hold you. Instead, you choose rooms that expand you, people who see you, and paths that align with your truth. You start living in a way that honors your spirit, even if it makes others uncomfortable. There's a reason enemies fear people who won't back down. They rely on your insecurity. They count on your silence. But when you walk past them with grace, chin lifted, as if their opinion is weightless dust in the wind, they realize their game is over. They've lost access to your mind, your energy, your reaction, and that's when you win, not through argument, not through revenge, but through presence, through unshakable dignity. It takes courage to walk like that, especially when you've been told your whole life to sit down, blend in, stay quiet. But every time you stand tall in the face of disrespect, every time you refuse to lower your standards to match someone else's insecurities, you break a cycle. You build a new legacy, one where your worth isn't negotiable. And your voice doesn't tremble just because someone else doesn't approve. People will try to bring you down with whispers, with sarcasm, with judgment disguised as advice. But your job is not to convince them. Your job is to live as if you already know the truth. That you are worthy, that you are enough, that their opinions, however loud, don't rewrite your value. Hold your head high when they laugh, when they mock, when they question. Hold it high when you fail, when you succeed, when you're unsure, when you're glowing, because holding your head high isn't about how perfect your life looks. It's about how powerfully you choose to carry yourself through the mess, the noise, and the doubt. Let your posture speak louder than your words. Let your silence be your strength. Let your presence be the proof. You were never meant to crawl just to make others comfortable. You were built to rise. Stand tall. Not just because you can, but because they never expected you to. Walk like you own your worth. Because when you hold your head high, the world has no choice but to notice. 6. Choose yourself every time, the boldest commitment you'll ever make. After all the silent stares, the unanswered disrespect, the firm boundaries, the quiet retreats, and the unwavering posture, there's still one final, non-negotiable act of strength, choosing yourself. Not once, not occasionally, but every single time. This is not about self-indulgence or selfishness. It's about self-respect. It's about recognizing that in a world full of people who will ask you to bend, stretch, shrink, and sacrifice, you are the only one who can truly protect the integrity of who you are. Choosing yourself means stepping into your own corner, especially when no one else is clapping. It means being the voice in your own head that says, "I've got you," when others stay silent. Because the truth is, disrespect won't always come from strangers. Sometimes it arrives wrapped in friendship, disguised in family, spoken through familiarity, and that's what makes it even harder to walk away. But here's what no one tells you. Being loyal to yourself doesn't mean you're disloyal to others. It simply means you're finally loyal to the one person who's been with you through every single moment, yourself. We live in a world that romanticizes self-sacrifice, that glorifies being the bigger person, keeping the peace, making others comfortable. But peace is not passive. Real peace sometimes means disappointing others. Real peace sometimes means canceling plans that drain you, saying no to people you used to say yes to, and letting go of relationships where love has been replaced by obligation. Choosing yourself is messy, but it's necessary. It's not always dramatic. It's not always an explosive goodbye or a loud confrontation. Often, it's quiet. It's when you stop over-explaining, when you stop waiting for them to change, when you silently make the decision that your time, your energy, and your heart will no longer be given to people who make you feel like you're hard to love. There's nothing arrogant about protecting your energy. There's nothing rude about walking away from spaces that dishonor your growth. Boundaries are not walls built out of spite. They're gates opened with care. And you decide who walks through. You decide how much access people get. Not based on guilt. Not based on how long you've known them. But based on how they treat you, consistently. There was a point in my life where I kept trying to prove my worth to people who were committed to misunderstanding me. I kept showing up, overextending, over-explaining, thinking if I just did a little more, they'd finally treat me better. But all I did was exhaust myself. Until one day, I looked in the mirror and realized the truth. No one was going to rescue me from the cycle I kept choosing. No one was going to give me the permission slip to prioritize myself. That was my job, and the moment I chose me, not just in theory, but in practice, everything changed. I stopped chasing closure from people who never gave clarity. I stopped waiting for apologies that were never coming. I started protecting my mornings. I started nurturing my inner peace. I started trusting my gut. And with every small decision to honor my needs, I started rebuilding the kind of confidence that couldn't be taken away. The kind of confidence that doesn't need permission. The kind that doesn't shrink for love or approval. And yes, some people drifted, some got uncomfortable, but the right ones remained. The ones who never needed me to break myself just to stay close. Choosing yourself doesn't mean isolating from the world. It means showing up in the world as someone who's already whole. Not waiting for others to complete you. It means setting the tone for how you expect to be treated. It means standing so firmly in your worth that others have no choice but to meet you there, or walk away. Every time you say yes to what drains you, you say no to what fulfills you. Every time you silence your needs for someone else's comfort, you reinforce the idea that their peace matters more than yours. But here's the truth. Your peace matters. Your joy matters. Your clarity matters. You matter. And no relationship, no opportunity, no tradition is worth trading that away. Make no mistake, choosing yourself will cost you. It might cost you approval. It might cost you proximity. It might cost you the illusion of harmony. But what you gain in return is something priceless: alignment. You gain the ability to look in the mirror and say, I showed up for me. You gain rest. You gain dignity. You gain the kind of quiet, unshakable self-trust that doesn't need defending. And when you begin to live like that, the world around you shifts. You start attracting people who see your light without asking you to dim it. You start experiencing connections that feel mutual, effortless, grounded. You start living days that feel aligned, not just impressive from the outside, but fulfilling on the inside. Choosing yourself is not a moment. It's a lifestyle. It's 100 micro decisions each day that say, I'm worth the respect I give to everyone else. It's a reminder that you are the foundation of your own peace, and if you fall, everything else falls with you. Your job is to protect that foundation fiercely. Never apologize for choosing yourself. That choice is not selfish. It is sacred, and the more you make it, the more you'll realize you were never asking for too much. You were simply offering it to the wrong people. From this point forward, carry this truth. I am enough. I am allowed to protect my energy. I am allowed to walk away. I am allowed to choose me. Every single time. Closing message. Stand tall. Stay true. Choose you. When it comes to handling people who don't respect you, the real power isn't in proving them wrong. It's in standing so firmly in your worth that their opinions can't touch you. Whether it's through silence, distance, boundaries, or unapologetic confidence, every part of you deserves to be honored. You are not here to shrink for anyone. You are here to rise, to lead, and to set the tone for how you allow yourself to be treated. The truth is, not everyone will see your value. Some will test your patience, push your limits, or question your choices. Let them, and then respond with stillness, with clarity, and with unwavering presence. Because the moment you stop reacting and start choosing yourself, you reclaim control, not just of the situation, but of your identity. Let this be your reminder. Respect starts with you. You teach the world how to treat you by what you tolerate, what you allow, and what you walk away from. When you stand for your values, when you protect your peace, you begin to attract relationships that are rooted in mutual respect, not manipulation. And that shift, no matter how quiet, changes everything. Choosing yourself is not a betrayal of others. It's a bold act of self-love. And it's how you begin to live a life that actually feels like yours. If this message spoke to you, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs it, and don't forget to subscribe for more content that helps you protect your energy. Reclaim your power, and live with purpose, because you were never meant to settle. You were meant to stand tall. And it all begins with you.